Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Fellas YouTube channel. My name is Cameron Lawrence and today we are talking the top 5 bounce back players. These are guys that you're going to be able to get at a discount and you should be drafting with confidence. I don't want to waste any time, so I'm just going to jump right in. Our first guy is Justin Herbert. Last year, if you drafted him, you paid the price and he finished as a quarterback 11. It was extremely disappointing this season. He is my quarterback 6, Lucas's quarterback 5, and Tyler's quarterback 5. 2022, he had 477 completions, 699 attempts, which was second in the NFL behind only Tom Brady. 4,700 yards, only 25 touchdowns. If you had Justin Herbert in 2021, you were excited. 38 touchdowns. You thought maybe this is the year he breaks through over 40, maybe pushes 45, but only 25 through 10 picks. And he's a guy who's always added something on the ground, but last year, 54 attempts, only 147 rushing yards, and 0 touchdowns. But the way this season went, you can kind of see why. Right away, week 2, he suffers broken rib cartilage. I wouldn't be running either if I'm as tall as he is, looking like a wind sail, and I got these DNs, linebackers coming in, trying to hit me in the ribs. He also, week 1, lost Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen doesn't play a full game until week 11. That's his wide receiver 1. He loses his all-pro left tackle, Rashawn Slater. If I'm dealing with rib cartilage fracture, I really want my left tackle there, and if he's not, I'm going to be getting that ball out quick, even if I got the big cannon arm like Justin Herbert does. And then right when Keenan Allen's about to come back, he loses Mike Williams weeks 9 to 13. He just couldn't keep his guys on the field, and he was playing injured. And then at some point throughout the season, he tore his shoulder, right? And if you want a full dive in of what last year looked like for Justin Herbert, Ty released a great breakdown of all the top 15 quarterbacks, so you can go check that one out. But I'm here to give you the optimism for this next season. And one of the biggest points of optimism, why I think that you should be drafting Justin Herbert with confidence, why you should be excited right now that he's going off the board as a quarterback 7, is because he's bringing over Kellen Moore from Dallas. Right? I just don't think we can understate how big of a deal that is, that Kellen Moore is coming over. Dak Prescott, in his time with Kellen Moore over that entire 4-year stretch, was the quarterback 6. For all the knocks we have on Dak, for all the injuries he's gone through, he was the quarterback 6 in points per game during that time, putting up around 20. That was 3 points higher than what we saw from Justin Herbert last season. Also, Cowboys last 2 seasons were a top 5 scoring offense. 2 years ago, they were top 2, putting up over 60 touchdowns. Obviously, I guess the 60 touchdowns came from the defense as well, but still putting up over 50 total touchdowns in back-to-back years. That is huge for an offense. That is what you should be excited to see for the Chargers. And then on the Chargers end, without Kellen Moore, they bring in Quentin Johnson. That's a big addition. Mike Williams is healthy. Rashawn Slater's healthy. Keenan Allen is healthy. But I think even if you're worried about Mike Williams not staying healthy, even if you're worried about Keenan Allen not staying healthy for a full season, the addition of Quentin Johnson makes sure that they're going to for sure have a wide receiver on the field that he can actually throw the ball to who's, wouldn't be a wide receiver 4 on another team. And I think that's really big for Justin Herbert moving forward. And I think we can expect to see a bounce back to what we saw in 2021, where he had 443 attempts, 672 attempts, 443 completions, 5,014 yards, 38 touchdowns. He did throw 15 picks, but for fantasy, we would like to see him airing it out. He was a quarterback 2, and he was averaging 23.3 fantasy points per game. Would have been good enough for quarterback 4 this season. Obviously, with the breakout from Jalen Hurts, the way that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes played, you'd still be extremely happy. And if you were able to get him where he's going right now in best ball drafts, great value. The other thing that I think is going to start coming back this season is the rushing. We've seen 3 touchdowns. We've seen 5 rushing touchdowns from Justin Herbert. In 2021, he had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's something that really can elevate him. And then the biggest thing, though, for Justin Herbert, the reason why I'm optimistic, we saw his touchdown percent last year go from 5.6 to 3.5. And we saw his yards per attempt go from 7.4 to 6.7. I think both of those are going to be returning to the average. He's going to be airing the ball out more. They went and got Quentin Johnson so he could do just that. And the touchdowns are going to continue to return. If we're talking about a guy who could throw 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, Justin Herbert's probably atop that list behind, of course, Patrick Mahomes. But I think him and Burrow are right there for the 2 other guys who could do it. All right, we're going to stick with the quarterback position, and we're going to jump right into Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is going to the quarterback 4, so obviously you're still paying up for him. But for me, Lamar Jackson is in that tier of those top 3. I got him projected 8 fantasy points below Jalen Hurts going into this next season. Finished as a quarterback 14 last year. He's my quarterback 4. Lucas and Tyler had quarterback 6. So they're a little bit lower, a little bit more hesitant on Lamar Jackson. And if we're being honest, a lot of it probably comes down to health, probably comes down to what we've seen the last 2 years, right? Only played 12 games. But last season, 203 completions on 326 attempts, 2,242 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 picks. But he still was amazing on the ground. 764 rushing yards. And like I said, 12 games, had 112 attempts and 3 touchdowns. He was on pace for over 1,000 yards every single season. He's been on a 16-game pace, 17-game pace, I guess, even as well, of at least 1,000 rushing yards, which is really him and Justin Fields right now that are the two that are going to do that. And there is a lot of reasons for optimism for Lamar Jackson, right? He's going to be healthy this season, fully healthy. He is just signed a big extension. That's not looming over like it was last season, right? That was the biggest distraction out of probably any quarterback other than Deshaun Watson that we saw was Lamar Jackson's contract talks. It just never ended the entire year. They then add Todd Monken, who has already said, him and Lamar both come out and said, we're going to throw the ball more. We're not going to be like Greg Roman, who threw the ball the 28th fewest times in the league last season, who runs, less plays than anybody else. They're going to move the tempo. They're going to play to probably what is Lamar Jackson's strength of being able to move up. The scrambling is more. They're going to be less designed runs for Lamar. But honestly, it's probably better because Lamar does better when he can scramble, when he can make throws on the move. And on top of that, he easily has the best weapons he's had since he started with Baltimore, right? Obviously, Mark Andrews is a staple of this offense, the true number 1 target. But then he has Rashad Bateman, he has Odell Beckham, and he has Zay Flowers. You don't have to believe in any of them, truly, but the fact that he has 3 wide receivers who are all going to be decent on the field, who are all going to have their great roles. They might not all be great for fantasy, but they're great for helping Lamar in fantasy. And I truly believe that we could see a resurgence to what we saw in that 2019-2020, those 2 years back to back, right? 2019, 3,100 yards, 2020, 2,700 yards, 36 touchdowns in 2019, 26 touchdowns in 2020. There's no reason that if Lamar, if he can throw the ball 500 times this year, which truthfully is about 5 more times a game, which I think we'll easily see, that he shouldn't be over 3,500 yards. He would be with his yards per attempt, career yards per attempt to 7.4. So if they do throw the ball more, we're going to see the highest passing yardage he's ever seen. Right? We've seen that he can put up 36 touchdowns. We've seen he can put up 26 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts averaged 25 fantasy points a game last year with 22 passing touchdowns. Obviously, he had 13. I'm not saying Lamar will. But Lamar could have 1,000 yards rushing this season, whereas Jalen Hurts only has 700, and really start closing that gap between what we saw last year from Jalen Hurts. When you add this rushing base, I just can't understate how important that is, how much that truly helps a quarterback. And like I said with rushing, he's never had under 110 rushing attempts. I don't think that's going to happen even if they have less designed runs this year. And he's always been on pace for at least 1,000 yards. He's as efficient as they come, 6.1 yards per carry over his career, 6.9, 6.3, 5.8, 6.8 last season. He can break away big runs. We've seen him put up 7 touchdowns multiple times in a season running the ball. And I just don't see if he's healthy how he doesn't do that again in a more explosive offense with better weapons. Alrighty, we're going to move on to Lamar Jackson's teammate now, J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins was the running back 57 last year. Obviously, he only played 8 games. He's coming off that injury. It's taken him 2 years. Usually we see the running backs really explode back onto the scene that second year after the injury, which would be this season. He is my running back 20. Lucas is at 23. And Ty is more pessimistic at running back 28. But this dude has insane talent. 6 yards per carry. In his rookie year, 5.7 last year. And if you watched him last year, he did not look right at all. And he still had 5.7 yards per carry, which is ridiculous. Third in breakaway run rate with last year with 10.9% of his runs were breakaway runs. That is just crazy. Second in juke rate. And like I said earlier, 5.7 yards per touch. Over his career, he's averaged 10 attempts a game, but still 65 total yards and over half a touchdown. This guy gets in the end zone. This guy is explosive with the ball in his hands. And obviously with Todd Monken, you're thinking, oh man, they're going to throw the ball more. well, they're going to run so many more plays than we saw in the turtle-paced Greg Roman offense that I don't think the rushing attempts are going to change all that much. Obviously, I think it's going to come down a little bit, but not too much in this backfield. Gus Edwards is also returning from an ACL, but J.K. Dobbins is just so much of a better back that I would be shocked if we don't see a 220 attempt type of year out of Dobbins. The one thing that really is going to hold Dobbins back is the receiving work, right? Even if they are scheming more receiving, I don't think Dobbins is going to get great receiving work. If I'm Lamar Jackson and I can dump it off 4 yards to my running back or run it myself with the legs that he has, he's probably going to run the ball more himself. But if we do see, 35 targets, 36 targets from J.K. Dobbins this season, that is a plus from what we think we're getting. Right now he's going about the running back 19. I think he can outperform that, but he's for sure going to outperform what we saw last season. I think a lot of people are still worried about that. So if he falls in your draft, he is a great guy to bank on for this next season. Alrighty, up next, we're actually going to stay in the same division, but we're just going to move to the wide receiver spot. We have Diontae Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I have been really convicted over the last couple of weeks of just how much we're underrating Diontae Johnson. He finishes the wide receiver 28, and the reason we're underrating him is because we're just looking at fantasy point finish. We're not looking at all the underlying factors of Diontae Johnson. I have my wide receiver 23, Lucas at 29, and Tyler at 32. I think they are both massively underrating Diontae Johnson. Last season, 86 receptions on 147 targets, which was 7th in the NFL, only 882 yards, and 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns, just disgusting. The only player ever to have more than 110 targets and not have a touchdown, he had 147 of them. He was 7th in the NFL. And you're like, well, okay, maybe he just doesn't score touchdowns. His career average is 6 touchdowns a game. Oh, but he is a rookie quarterback. He was top 10 in red zone targets with 18 of them. It was just unlucky is the only way that I can put it. It's the way that I think we have to view it. It's not going to happen again. It is the outlier of the outlier. And because of that, people are looking, not a great fantasy finish. George Pickens is emerging. This is where you need to buy the dip and be ready for Diontae Johnson to bounce back. He was also second in unrealized air yards. He was the 4th worst catch rate last year because Kenny Pickett couldn't hit him. Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky couldn't hit him, right? That they're only going to get better. Their chemistry is only going to get better on the field. I think we're going to see a real big step back for Diontae Johnson to what we saw in 2021 when he had 170 targets, 107 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. But this was his 3rd year in a row with 140 targets. The targets aren't going to go away. You don't have 3 years of 140 plus targets by accident. You do it because you're a really good route runner. You're great at getting open. The Steelers trust him. Mike Tomlin likes him. Yes, he has a drop problem, but so does Jamar Chase. You're not going to worry about the drop problem. It doesn't really truly affect you for fantasy unless he starts getting benched, which he has not been. And then, of course, George Pickens is coming along. George Pickens is going to be great. Diontae Johnson almost doubled George Pickens' target share last year. There was only 2 games last year where George Pickens out-targeted Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson was clear and away the better wide receiver on this team. And he's a guy, like I've said, you need to be drafting Diontae Johnson at where he's going. He's going in the mid wide receiver 30s. That is way too low. If he had his career average of 6 touchdowns last season, he was the wide receiver 19. We're having a completely different discussion about Diontae Johnson. Buy the dip, look for the regression back to the mean. And finally, our 5th player, Mr. Darren Waller, the new tight end of the New York Football Giants. Last season, obviously disappointed, riddled with injuries, finishes the tight end 31. Tyler is tight end 7, Lucas is tight end 6, my tight end 5. I am a true believer in Darren Waller. He's just such an intriguing player. He could easily lead this team in receptions, in targets, and yards, in touchdowns. Easily. They are looking for a wide receiver 1, but he's only played 20 games in the last 2 seasons. He's dealt with hamstrings. He's dealt with different issues, right? He's going to be 31 this season. Can we really bank on him returning to form? I believe so. He is Just a guy who, in his last season, we saw healthy average in 2020, 17.4 fantasy points per game, led the league in receptions, tied with Kelsey for targets. Last season, still averaged 14 yards per reception. In his first game back in 2021 from injury, he had 9 targets. In his first 2 games in 2022, he finished top 10 both weeks. Then he gets hurt in 2022, comes back for the last 4 weeks of the season, and is the tight end 6 across that stretch. When he's on the field, he is performing amazingly. He does have Daniel Jones now, who is a little bit different than David Carr as far as chucking the ball down the field. But this Giants team was efficient last year. This Giants team moved the ball up and down the field. They did what they needed to do. Obviously wasn't great, but they didn't have wide receivers. He, like I said earlier, can easily step in, be the number 1 target, be the Mark Andrews, if you will, of this offense. And I just think as long as he stays healthy, he is going to be an awesome value in drafts because he has really fallen down draft boards. Well, that is all I have for today, guys. Make sure to hit those notifications. Make sure to subscribe. Follow us on all of our socials, which we got over here. You can follow me on my personal socials, CamLawFFF, on Twitter and on TikTok. We're growing over there. Just started that up, and we're a little bit over 6,000 followers at that point. So make sure to jump on over and join me over there. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you on Friday with Mr. Tyler Plath.